Hello everybody and welcome to the Radiator Arms, everybody's fourth favourite automotive-themed fictional watering hole. And have I got a surprise for you, because we now have a nearly production-ready version of our theme tune, courtesy of the ever-fragrant Will the Plank. So, I'm going to unpack the canned applause and hit it, Virtual Will! You know, on occasion I do just sit there listening to that theme tune. And one day I would very much love for the Radiator Arms to be an actual bricks and mortar building. But that is some way away. Now, as ever, I am joined by the lovely man in the cans, Will.
Hello.
AKA Will the Plank. And to my left, Ant.
Hello.
Of SPORTZNTOURING and, of course, JM and Friends. And in tonight's performance of the Radiator Arms, the role of JM shall be played by me, James Martin. So I want to say a big hello to everybody and a thank you to everybody, whether you're watching or listening. Now, in this week's instalment, we are going to be talking about car shows. Not shows about cars, as we found out and thought we were talking about just before recording. Instead, I mean the things where you go to a field where lots of people have parked their cars and you discuss them. But ahead of that, to warm up the old vocal cords, gentlemen, what tomfoolery have you witnessed on the roads this week?
I nearly had my car written off by an old lady in a Hyundai who didn't look properly when she was pulling out of a junction.
Oh, Deadly Doris.
Yes, Deadly Doris.
Yeah, the world's full of those. I got a bit of a theory on that, which is that it's often said and stated that all the evidence supports the notion that young people are more dangerous drivers than the elderly. I will admit to some bias. My grandfather was killed by a doddery old chap that didn't look where he was going before pulling across a dual carriageway. And I think that the real difference is that both of them can cause incidents. Typically, younger people, it's at higher speed. But I think when it comes to the elderly, people are a little more forgiving. You know, some young lad in his hotted up Nova, showing my age there, scratches your car in a car park because he wasn't paying attention. You're going to throw the book at him. You'll want him to do 20 to 10 in the pen immediately. But Barbara gets out the car, or old Colin, and then and his daughter or son gets out and goes, oh, we're really sorry about it. Oh, you know, he's not going to be driving for much longer anyway. You know, look, we'll just sort this out. We'll give you some money. Like, oh, don't, because you know they'll take his license off of him, and it's the only freedom he's got. You'll be a little bit more forgiving. But personally, I think no. Sorry, you're a menace. License, give it to me. I'll feed it to the shredder. But like I say, I am biased. Ant, how about you?
Well, apart from the people who don't know what a white circle with a diagonal black line through it means, on my way here, where they were doing 35 miles an hour in a 60, honestly, it's just the most frustrating thing. And you can just tell, because you've just come out of like a 40, so they were doing kind of 35, so they're timid anyway, and they just carry on at the same speed, even though they've gone past the sign. It's like, okay, maybe one or two people might have missed the sign, I get it, but not with everybody. But the worst one recently was I was just on the road driving, I think I was in a Lambo, and on a dual carriageway, it was, I think it was like a 50 zone or something like that. And me and this other car had a little bit of what I call a play, you know, where there's no one behind you, just slow down a little bit and, you know, they do a little pull up to 50 and then you do a little pull up to 50 and you laugh and you wave at each other and then that's the end of it. And then it looked like what he was looking to do was actually have a full-on race. But there was like some traffic up ahead. And next thing I know, he was weaving in and out of the traffic. And I was like, I backed off straight away. I was like, I'm not having that. And yeah, unfortunately, he did the whole no hezzy thing.
And
for those that don't know what no hezzy means, it means no hesitation. It's like a stupid little game that younger people play, where they think they're in Test Drive Unlimited, weave inside and out of the traffic in the real world, film it, and then put it online and get loads of people commenting about what a great driver they are.
Boils my blood, that one. I've seen a few channels that are comprised of a lot of that sort of stuff, typically driving high-powered German cars in urban areas, and they're stabbing at throttle and brake like it's a switch, soaring away at the wheel with very little control. It's only the ESC basically stopping them from having a crash at every turning. And yeah, you go to the comment section and people are worshipping them. They're like, there's some sort of driving god. And you're like, no, you are a menace to yourself and those around you.
There was a quite high-profile incident of that. It was in America. One of these streamers that I'd never heard of until this whole incident occurred got in a car. I think it was a...
Was it a McLaren of some sort?
No. It was an Urus, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Lamborghini Urus. Ooh. And there's this other guy who's a streamer, always wears like a black helmet with a tinted visor and films himself doing all this nonsense. And this streamer got in the car with him and ended up crashing into the back of a car and then doing a hit and run.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've seen something about that.
There's been a few cases recently, both here and abroad, where people have been filming themselves doing not just double, but getting on for triple the national speed limit, doing, near 200 mile an hour, and having just major accidents where the car must be spread over a mile-wide area. And the fact that they get out alive is just miraculous. But you see these things happening. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like, why? I mean, we've both done fairly high speeds, but in countries where it's legal, and the respect you have to give to the road and your road users if you want to do that is enormous. You have to be so cautious. I mean, I think it was a 200 mile an hour, you're doing 83 meters a second. So, your braking distances suddenly become enormous at that point in time. And one person does something wrong. One person pulls out when they shouldn't have done. Like, that's it. Good night. Game over. Like, they'll scrape you off the road and put you in a very small box. Yeah,
I've many years ago I've been to Germany with my when my brother was driving. I think I may have mentioned this before on the podcast, but he had his Mercedes C200, and even there that wasn't a particularly fast one. And he was still doing like 120, 130 down there, and that's just normal. And just to me though, as a Brit who's only doing motorway speeds, that's baffling.
That's like the speed of light for many Americans, because 55 in many states is the maximum you can go. But James, what about you? What's your this week?
I had a remarkable 5 minutes at a motorway services just north of the border in an unseasonably sunny Scotland. I was headed up there in the Ferrari Roma Spider to do a week of driving and evaluation of this fabulous car. And I was a little bit ahead of time. I wanted to pull over, get the roof down, which required a bit of jiggery-pokery in the boot, and just get a bit of a snack, have a drink. And I was coming off the motorway, and it's your classic sort of arrangement. So imagine the services are off to your right. So below the motorway, you've got a little sort of underpass, and you've got a small roundabout either side. So I'm coming down the slip road, and ahead of me is a full Arctic, 45 tons of HGV, and ahead of him, going on the slip road to rejoin the dual carriageway, is a Vauxhall Insignia in reverse.
Oh no.
Yep. Now, luckily, the HGV driver could see what was going on, this utter insanity ahead of him, and had stopped with plenty of time to spare. And it's only the fact that I didn't want to get myself done for, handheld device while driving that I didn't film it just to send it to the local constabulary, because this sort of stuff is just utterly and totally moronic. The risk they were posing to everybody for what appeared to be, because they came into the services after me, no kind of emergency or anything like that. Like, I'd nearly understand if they pulled over and there's flames belching out the front of the car. Like, you'd have an element of understanding and forgiveness. But no, I think they just couldn't follow a map and had gone the wrong turn. It's daft, isn't it?
You just see that kind of thing quite regularly, actually. People, missing their junctions or going down the wrong and backing up and trying to get onto the motorway again and things like that. You just can't fathom what goes through people's head when they think, oh, that seems like a good idea.
I once saw on my way home from school in Bury St Edmunds, somebody missed their turning at a roundabout, stopped and reversed back round. And what drove me insane was the fact that it was a reasonably small roundabout, so it would have been quicker to have just kept going and gone for it second time round, but instead they had to stop and reverse. And I just watched them in utter and total bemusement. But back in Scotland, it was a very, very eventful turn of events, because not long after I'd pulled in and so had the man and his insignia, this absolutely stunning bright yellow TVR Tuscan thundered in, looking magnificent. I love a Tuscan, and I don't think I've ever seen a yellow one in person. Pulled up to the pump. Naturally, I go over to want to ask the chap if I can take a photo, and this 65-year-old Scottish grandma gets out of it.
Brilliant.
And there was nobody else in the car. It's just her car. She drives it. She loves it. It had an ant-approved exhaust on it, I can tell you that much. Thundered and popped out as she left and looked brilliant. Then when I went to leave, I had to stop as a gaggle of about 30 geese were just waddling through the middle of the forecourt. Couldn't believe it.
That sounds more like a dream.
Honestly, it was one of those things that makes you sort of just think for a moment and go, I am sober, aren't I? Like, yeah, I definitely am.
What was in those shrooms?
a proper fever dream.
Yeah, I tell you what, mate. Yeah, that all-day breakfast sandwich had something in the sauce. I also spun a car last week for the first time in, I don't know, about 5-6 years.
God, what road was that on?
The little straight bit at Knock Hill, happily.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, I don't remember you telling us about that.
No. It was, a good old day, actually. So part of the reason that I went up to Scotland, I took the Ferrari up there because I'd already got the trip planned, and then the opportunity came to take it, and the Ferrari press office very kindly let me borrow the car, even though normally you can have one of these cars for about 3 or 4 days and you can put about 600-700 miles on it. I took it for a week and put over 2,000 miles on the clock.
Wow.
I think I tripled the mileage on the press car. So thank you, Ferrari. And I'd been invited by 2 friends completely independently to go and join them for track days that they were doing at Knock Hill. I'd never been on track at Knock Hill other than to take some photographs before, so I was sort of, driving around at walking pace. One was a lovely chap called Cal, who has a Huracan Sterato that I drove. Yeah, really, really cool. And he was actually out on track in his recently acquired Renault Sport Megane Trophy R. Nice. If you remember that's the Megane that if you fully spec'd it was 72 grand. This wasn't that. This was the quote unquote basic one at 51 grand.
Wow.
That they took to the Nurburgring and set the record with. Yeah.
Pocket change.
You'd love it, and
absolutely. Is this the same guy with the Atom?
This is the guy with the Atom. Yeah. So him and his friend Scott, they invited me to this Lamborghini owners track day, where there's a whole bunch of really nice metal there. So some Lamborghinis, more than I actually was expecting, and a Revuelto owned by another famous YouTuber.
Ooh,
yeah, the Hoof GP. You've seen those videos on YouTube that get recommended to you of some cow's rancid foot and some bloke scraping away at it, getting pus to come out.
My wife loves those. That's all her subscription feed is.
Yeah. He was there, and he's got a Revuelto. So it does quite well for him.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Your recommendations are clearly very different to mine.
Yeah, people love this sort of thing.
Yeah, my wife's, may I say, not mine.
Well, the fact that James even knows about it.
It appears on Facebook feeds and stuff. It's like Dr. Pimple Popper, that sort of thing. People love that sort of stuff.
Not for me.
Yeah, so there's a market for it, So
listen, I'm not. There's a market for everything out there. I'm just saying that I didn't.
You're not
know
it.
I'm not it because clearly it's never been shown to me.
But yeah.
So the track day itself, like what was it you were driving on the track? Was it just the Ferrari, or was it just other stuff?
No Ferrari press car on track. The first day I just watched, and to be honest, it hacked it down. There was rain, then hail, then back to rain, then hail again. It was not a good day for filming.
It was Scotland.
It was very Scottish. Not filming or driving. The next day, I was up there with my action accountant, Dom, who you got to meet this weekend, who I call my action accountant because he is both my accountant and also former British auto test champion. So he's very, very handy behind the wheel and a really nice guy to boot, and hopeful one day Radiator Arms special guest.
Absolutely.
I thought you were going to say he had like a little thing behind his head that makes his eyes move left and right, and he had a kung fu grip.
No.
That's Action Man, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know.
But he's got a Series 1 Lotus Elise, a Sport 135, which he's had for donkey's years now. And it's very much his track car. And it's probably a really good car, actually, to learn the track. And I drove it a bit, was having a lot of fun. And on, I think, my third session, it might have been, I went out and I witnessed the biggest tank slapper, I don't know if that term applies to cars as well, but that's what I'm going to call it, that I've ever seen in my entire life. There's someone else out there in an Elise. I mean, this was the Subaru owners track day, but there was two Subarus and both of them took retirement after about an hour, I think. And this Elise went down the one of the straights and it went left and right and left and right, and each time getting a bigger and bigger moment. And I'm sort of backed off looking at this being like, fella, that's unrecoverable. Just bring the thing to a halt, because whatever you're trying, it ain't working. The two Clios behind him had seen what was going on and they backed off. But the Caterham on track clearly wasn't looking that far ahead of himself, because he shot past me and nearly basically went into the back of the Clios and the side of this other Elise. So after that happened, I thought, okay, right, let's take it a little bit easier. And I made classic rookie mistake, which is that I decided, right, you know what? I've had my fun. I've been enjoying myself. I'm going to pit in a lap or two. So I backed it right off. And coming onto a corner, it's a right-hander, but you're going basically uphill as you crest onto the right. And what happens is, very common track thing, I'm sure Ant will confirm, I wasn't on it, which meant I wasn't on the accelerator, which meant there wasn't any weight on the back of the car. And on track, you lose your sense of speed quite quickly. So even though it doesn't feel like you're going very quick, I was probably still doing 60 mile an hour. And I went to turn a bend and I was keeping off the racing line as well. So you're on a different bit of the track that's probably not as grippy and probably a little cooler as well. And basically I just turned and then, I'm going backwards. And it was absolutely fine. I did basically a nice, neat 360 in a straight line. Didn't really even touch the grass. Dipped the clutch down so you don't screw the engine. And just carried on. Yeah.
Oh, well, at least it wasn't on the public roads. That's the main
thing.
No,
that would be very embarrassing. I definitely wouldn't be talking about it in the podcast.
And at least it was just grass rather than a barrier, because that would have been really bad.
Yeah, that would have been a rubbish day.
Well, it's as they say, one moment you're on the road looking at the scenery and the next moment you're in the scenery looking at the road.
Like it.
So as somebody who's never been on track, in fact, okay, the only time I've been on track is as a passenger. Now, this was at French Car Show in 2011, and it was in, I don't know if you guys remember, the green Renault Clio Cup that's around CL10 Cup, whatever the number
the old
plate
press
was.
car, yeah.
Yeah, the old press car. And I remember going in that and thinking, I just don't understand how some of these drivers can actually get this level of grip and make a car do this. I just think if I went on a track, like I could drive like nowhere kind of near this, and I always wonder if I'd even be like safe enough on a track with my driving experience. Like, what would you guys say is like a good piece of advice, or what you should know if you've never been on a track before?
Well, first off, we will get you on track later this year. You come and join us for the Secret Squirrel invite-only JM birthday party track day.
Okay.
In August, and we'll get you on track maybe in one of your own cars. See if we can squeeze the Maestro past the noise regs, and get you some passenger laps in some cool stuff, because I've got the list of cars that's coming, and it's great, because not just because there's some awesome machinery, there is, but also for the variety of stuff that's coming. So we'll get you out some cars.
Okay.
Honestly, and I've no doubt that Ant will agree with this, for me, especially at the stage of life that I'm at now, the one and only thing that is an utter essential when it comes to track driving. Leave your ego in the pit lane, because you know what? There'll always be a faster car out there. There'll always be a faster driver out there. It's a track day. It's not a test day. So you shouldn't be timing or anything like that. You should just be there to simply enjoy yourself, and any track day or time you go out on track where you can walk away from it, that's a good day. When you can reuse the car, that's a great day. And that's the way I look at it, and I stopped doing track days or public track days a few years ago. I had my E92 M3, which was an awesome bit of kit, way, way beyond my talent as a driver. But the problem I found was that people would walk up to me and be like, oh yeah, how quick is that? And I'd say, yeah, it's pretty quick. Yeah, what sort of times are you doing that? And I'd be like, well, I don't know, you're not even supposed to time these things. And you'd see people going and putting data loggers and things in their cars, even though you just had the briefing where they say, do not time this because it invalidates our insurance because it's a track day, not a test day. And people do it, and they were taking it way too seriously. And I just thought, I'm just here to enjoy myself. And disturbingly few people seemed to be on track to just enjoy themselves. So, yeah, too much bravado for me.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And the main thing is build yourself up slowly. Just go out, just try and understand the lines. And if you can find out what the lines of the track are, then just try and drive on that line, and then just go a little bit faster and a little bit faster and a little bit faster, brake a little bit later, and so on. I think the one thing that catches a lot of people out, though, I think, is braking. It's the opposite on the track than it is on the road. On the road, what you do is you start building up the brake pressure gradually, and you increase the brake pressure more progressively. Yeah. On a track, what you do is you hard on the brake, and then you start easing out of the brake. It's all about weight transfer. And in fact, in certain corners, if you're on the brake, as you're easing out of it, you can start turning in and continue to ease out of the brake right the way up to the apex. It's called trail braking.
Yes.
And what that's all about is, as you're going into the corner, you're getting the weight on the front of the car so that when the front tires turn, they've got most of the grip. And as you're easing out, what you're doing is you're transferring the weight so it's more to balance the car, essentially. So now there's weight back on the rear, and then you start squeezing the throttle on, and that pushes the weight onto the rear, which gives you traction on the way out.
It's interesting you say that, because a lot of the time, maybe this is a subconscious thing. I don't consider myself the world's best driver. I don't think any of us sitting here can say that we don't make mistakes. And, it's one of those for me when I do like to drive a bit spiritedly, which we all do. I do obviously have my sense of caution, making sure that I'm doing what I can see properly and within the realms of the law. But it's interesting how my mind actually I do sometimes do a little bit of that with the braking. If I am being a bit more spirited, go to the corner, brake on hard, then lift up just as you're turning, and you can actually feel the car kind of moving. So maybe that's just a subconscious thing that I've picked up, I guess. Or
well, you're also driving, especially with the Maestro, an older car that gives you a lot more of this communication.
Yes.
Modern cars can be quite tricksy, including performance cars, because the steering has got less feel in it. But what's also happened with adaptive dampers, active anti-roll bars and things is cars now corner completely flatly, where it used to be your signal for how close you were to the limits of adhesion was the fact that the car would basically be sat on its side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Before I put the coilovers on the Maestro, literally, you would be leaning into corners. I would be in the passenger seat round some corners sometimes. And because it had, as well, 13-inch wheels or whatever it was with big, thick tyres, you could actually feel the tyre walls starting to flex and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you look at like an E-Type, there's tread on the side of the tyre. And that's because the tyre would deform and do all that sort of stuff. So there's a really good tip that Vic Elford gives. Whether he originated it or not, I highly doubt it. But when performance driving, and this does apply to both road and track, and typically very different disciplines, very, very different. Just because you're fast on track does not make you a good road driver, and vice versa. I'll have people come out to me who are race drivers and want to prove to me that they're race drivers on the road. And it's like, you're not impressing me. The hazards, the things you have to deal with, they're totally different. But Vic Elford's piece of advice is, imagine there is a string tied around your big toe up to the steering wheel. So the idea is that, when the steering wheel is straight, you can have your foot down, either on the accelerator or the brake. But then as you begin to turn, you're going to be doing less of either, because at the end of the day, your tires only have a certain amount of grip available to them. And for those of a certain generation, I assume they still do it. Forza Motorsport used to have a great screen where it would show you in real time how much load each tire has taken, up to the point where it's then overladen. And it was a great way of seeing like what you're asking of a tire. And that's all about weight transfer. So sometimes you'll see a driver come to a bend and they'll dab the brakes, not because they actually want to slow down, but because doing that puts the force on the front tires, gives you the grip. And you look at different race cars, like drag cars, for example, tiny front tires, because, well, they're not even going to be touching the ground most of the time. And as it happens, you don't want a tire with loads of grip at the front of a drag car, because that could pull you off the track. Really, you just drive it off the back. They're just there to basically stop it falling over.
That is very interesting. I remember that the Forza they had that it went green, yellow, and red, didn't it? Like with tire temperature and things like that stuff.
Yep.
I think another tip is ignore what everyone else is doing. Concentrate on what you're doing. Because if you're behind someone, what they do, the turning in point that they have can draw you in, or the braking point that they have can draw you in. But the turning in point for a front-wheel drive car might be different to a rear-wheel drive car. It might be different depending on the weight of the car and what tyres they're running. And there's a significant event occurred some years ago at Brands Hatch. Damani was on a track day, but testing his new race car. And obviously the race car was on slicks. It was a Volkswagen Golf, and not particularly powerful. I think it was only 260 horsepower. It's restricted by the regulations, but we could use track days just for like shakedown and just kind of getting the feel back in. And there was another guy on the track with a Mark 6 Golf as well, and it was a beautiful road car, and it had some custom beautiful kind of red, not red, like some beautiful metallic red paint on it that looked gorgeous, some stunning looking wheels, clearly a bit of a show car, had it lowered, all of that stuff. And he was following behind Damani, and he saw Damani go through this corner and just drop him. So when he went back around, he tried to follow him through the corner again, and Damani went straight through with his slicks that are nicely up to temperature now, which they weren't on the previous lap, but still was quicker than this road car. He tried to go through the corner at the same pace, and he just went straight off and into the wall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, because, you don't know what tyres the person in front is running. In this case, he didn't realise that they were actually slick racing tyres that were now up to temperature and allowed him to go through that corner considerably faster than any road tyre will let you.
Well, this is something I kind of found regarding, your own abilities, and it is humbling, is when you go out go-karting. Now, I've been go-karting a couple of times with friends, and, I'm always in the middle of the leaderboard, and you know what? I'm quite happy with that, because I like to think to myself as I'm just going out there to have some fun, improving a little bit on the times and stuff, and just kind of learning that little track a bit more. But I got some friends there who could just absolutely almost run laps around me, and they're the same kind of like vehicles, they're the same kind of setups, and it's like some people just are better and have that better experience than you.
It can be that, but in go-karts, I think, weight's a significant factor. If they're shorter than you, smaller than you, that's
most people are, to be fair.
Well, this is the thing. So that's a significant factor. But I think the relevance of this track talk really sits nicely with car shows where there is track action. So like Castle Combe Action Day, for example, that's one of those events.
I've never been to Castle Combe in my life.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
I went there for a Japanese car show of some sort. I think it was JAE, possibly, 2011, 2012. It was something like that. I really can't remember where it was, because it's a long time ago, and I've aged a lot since then. But it was a good time. I remember that all the cars lined up, and there were cars just doing drifts around the track and things like that. That was kind of fun. It was the same thing, actually, at French Car Show 2011, of all things. They had a drift team there, which was quite interesting, drifting Japanese cars around at a French car show. But hey, the things you get. And those are quite fun. Then we went out and did parade laps round there as well. I got in some of my friends' cars and went round with the clubs. It was the Peugeot 106 owners clubs back in the day. And so I think those are quite fun. That is the kind of thing I might like to go and visit again.
Yeah, that's a French car show is probably the only place that would have parade laps with a Peugeot 106 owners club. But yeah.
Yes, that is, well, not even just with the 106s, like other cars and things like that. It'd be great.
Yeah. And then Players is another one. At Players Classic at Goodwood, they have track action. It's all relatively inexpensive as well. I think Coombs Action Day is something like £25 a session or something like that.
And that's why I don't do it.
But this is it. Now, I also would not do any of those days because they're cheap. Because the problem is they've got like 20 cars on track at any one time. And it's just... you don't know anything about these people, how much track time they've got. This is possibly their first time on track in some cases. In other cases, they're there, they've got something to prove. And all it takes is for one out of those 20-something people to make a small mistake, and that's it. You're taken out. And for those who've never done any track days before, your car insurance doesn't help. There is no insurance whereby if someone else hits you, their insurance paid. No, if someone else hits you, you pay to fix your own car.
It's interesting. You look in the terms and conditions of your insurance leaflets, because I always like to do that, actually mainly just to make sure that my cover allows me to drive other people's vehicles third party, which I only use if I ever really have to. But in those, you can see it's all like, and you won't be covered on the Nurburgring.
Yeah.
That's one they always put in. Nobody can go to the Nurburgring and that and be covered because it's technically a public road, isn't it? But obviously, I imagine they were getting a lot of claims from people on that particular public road.
Yes, but instead what they do now is people just get towed to a nearby road and say, it happened just here on this nearby road. I've no idea what this piece of barrier is doing. It must have been dropped on the road.
Yeah, it's the very distinctive, red and white scuff marks on the side of the car that sort of give it away. There's a distinct lack of armour on a lot of the public road of that nature. And no curbs.
Yes.
I did the Nurburgring last year for the first time.
And you drove it, didn't you?
Yep, I drove it. And what we did is we rented a track-prepped Mini Cooper S that had, the whole roll cage stripped out, bucket seats, harnesses, KW suspension, all of that, stuff, and paid for an instructor as well. Because I thought I'd get more out of it if I have someone actually guiding me round. And they were great. There's actually a video that might be coming out on Sports and Touring at some point in the next few months, if I ever get round to it. That's where we include that little piece. But that was good fun. So I'd say, if you can get some instruction for your first time, then take it.
Is that track as scary and kind of like, constant? It's kind of like one of those things where it's so intense. Is it as intense as everybody says it is? That track?
Yes.
There's two things about the Nurburgring. One, it's incredibly long. So it takes a very, very long time to actually learn it. Two, it is extremely unforgiving. There is very little runoff for much of the track. If you come off, you are almost certain to hit something quite solid. So there are many tracks where you can have a bit of an excursion and kind of make it back, maybe with a bit of gravel damage to the car or something like that, or maybe no damage at all. Nurburgring's not one of them.
No.
That's the big problem with
I
it.
also hear if you hit the arm car, it's quite expensive.
That's correct.
Yeah, you have to pay for it if you break it.
And they'll charge you for basically, stopping the track running. Basically, it's going to be 30 grand just to have an accident there before the cost of actually fixing your car. Now, they do have quite a few car shows there, including stuff like the Old Timer Grand Prix, which I would love to go to sometime. I've not really done many car shows abroad. I would love to. But what is the last car show you were actually at, Will?
Well, the last car show that isn't something that we've done together was probably, as I said, it might have been, I can't remember, it would have been some kind of Volkswagen thing, I think, back in about 2013. I don't know, I generally have pushed myself away from that kind of scene, generally because of the behaviour of the people there. It's an issue is you get people of a certain age and a certain class of vehicle where they've perhaps got their Mark IV Golf PD 130, where they've put their PD whatever head studs upgrades in there, their dark side development intercooler, their stage 1 map with pops and bangs and smoke and everything and all that stuff, and you kind of think, this isn't a scene I want to be. And I don't know. That's why I haven't gone in a while. However, how would you guys say like the scenes of those kind of car shows are these days in comparison? Because maybe it's because I haven't been there in so long that I'm remembering it worse than it is, or perhaps due to social media and police presence and people filming what you do, maybe there's kind of actually less idiocy.
No, filming, I think, encourages it, in my opinion.
And there's more of that because, of course, now you've got lots of people at the exits of these venues trying to film stuff, hoping to make themselves the next YouTube sensation because they caught a crash on camera, all the while being sort of ignorant, maybe, or oblivious, perhaps, to the fact that they are more likely to get that car show shut down than the actual crash or incident itself.
I was going to say, you just got to watch some of the Adam C videos, I think it is, of some of the crashes and things he's filmed and seen at car shows.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to his Road to Success podcast, the Ben Fowler thing, a while back because I was interested in it. And I've spoken to Adam on a few occasions. I wound up popping up in a couple of his videos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think, were we driving past Silverstone when... Was it one of the Japanese festivals was on or something was on? And basically, I randomly appeared in the Ferrari because I happened to be locally on that day, and we went over to the Silverstone Museum to watch the Formula One.
Oh, yeah, I was there that day.
So, yeah, I completely forgot there was a car show on. So, basically, I saw Adam C at the roundabout, gave him a wave.
Oh.
But he talked about the fact that I think in the early days, he wouldn't share the crash footage and near misses and that sort of thing. But then when COVID came around, of course, his life got a lot more difficult, as it did for many of us. And so he decided to do what he could and started then making like compilations featuring some of the footage that he hadn't used before. And of course, then that did incredibly well because people do like a bit of drama. People do like near misses, incidents, accidents, stuff like that. That's what people click on. So you could argue on the one hand, he's never told anybody to do this. And I know him, he would never encourage anybody to be silly, but I think you also can't be ignorant of the fact that the presence of not just him, it isn't just him, but the presence of anybody at the exit of a show can encourage foolishness. And that's why a lot of the shows that I know now have simply said, nobody films. Doesn't matter who you are, nobody films at the exit of a show.
Well, I can go one further than that. A friend of mine started a car meet some years back. It started out with, double-digit cars, grew to about 600 over the course of that year, and then they got this incredible venue. Oh God, what are you two doing? I'm sorry, I can't carry on talking while you're doing that.
You carry on, darling.
I just won't look. I just won't.
blink.
For those who are listening, just.
Put your top back on, Will. It's undignified.
Just thank goodness that you can't see what's going on right now. Or maybe you want to, in which case you should be watching the YouTube version.
Oh, I'm all right, thanks. It's a bit frothy, that one.
As I was saying, they eventually found this venue that had space for 2,000 cars that they thought, right, we're going to turn this meet into more of a show. And they did. And it was very successful. They thought, well, maybe 1,000 cars will show up. 2,000 cars showed up. They filled the venue. And they put stewards out at each of the sort of entry and exit points, reminding everybody just before they left, please make sure that you leave quietly, because if we get one complaint, we'll never get this venue again. And of course, people were fine. And out of the 2,000 cars, I think 10 maybe actually decided that they weren't going to listen and were going to do silly things at the exits anyway. And there were loads of people there, and there were people filming, including the aforementioned YouTuber. And that's it. They lost the venue. They were never allowed to have it again. So when they eventually found another venue, they actually applied to the local police to get an order that there could be no one on the pavement within, I think it was like 100 meters either side of the venue. So if you were standing outside the venue, you could literally be arrested for loitering under this particular order or whatever the crime. You could be as a dispersal order, I think it was. So you could be dispersed without notice for no good reason whatsoever. So they managed to clear the entire area around the exits, and lo and behold, what happened? People left quietly.
Yeah.
Because there was no one watching. There was no one egging them on, and there was no one filming.
I was going to say, I think as men, maybe not now we're getting a bit older because, well, me and James are in our 30s and you're looking better than us in our 30s, let's be honest. And
Too kind.
I know. I think especially when you're especially when you're in your 20s, and I don't know if you guys are quite straight-laced compared to me. I know when I was a bit younger, I might have been more easily egged on, perhaps, to do...
I was.
Exactly. The words that would always come out of my friend's mouth are, do a skid. And if they say, do a skid, you do a skid. So removing that kind of thing, I guess probably, you haven't got that ego boost to do it there because you're just leaving. And yeah, it is amazing though. I think though, even in my younger years, had somebody said to me, like stopped me at the car and said, please leave quietly, please behave, I still would, I would have left quietly behaved. So the people that make that decision to be kind of idiots, I don't know.
It does only take one though. That's the thing. And unfortunately, I think we as a car community do need to be a bit self-regulating because it is a hobby that is increasingly frowned upon for various different reasons. And you know full well that you can have that car show of 1,000 people who are all lovely, well-behaved and all that, but you just need one, as my northern friends would call it, dobber, to be an utter pellock. And they can ruin it for everybody else. We had it at our own meet not too long ago over at the Half Moon in Boxford. And there was a chap there in an M3 who I'm not, was he even there for us? I'm not so sure.
White Hart.
Sorry.
You said Half Moon.
I said Half Moon. That's another pub. For somebody that doesn't drink, I spend a lot of time in pubs. The Half Moon meets will be coming soon.
Yes.
I think I sent out on one of the emails that it was at the Boxford Half Moon, which does not exist.
But no, I agree. There was that F80 something, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I, as I said to you when it happened, I don't think he was there for us. I think he just happened to be there and just made a scene when leaving because there was other cars there and he wanted to show off his fragile masculinity.
Do you know what's more worrying?
What's that?
I noted his reg number.
Yep.
And then I ran a reg check.
Yep.
Came back with nothing.
Huh.
That might have been a fake plate. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, I was at a show at the weekend, Petrol Hedonism Underground. And
in Wembley.
In Wembley, yes. And James was there on Sunday. I was there Saturday and Sunday helping our friend Ben, Dad Cars, with the Dad Cars Family Zone and the Family Stage, sponsored by Impulse. I just I had said that phrase so many times, it's just burned into my brain now. And they had a similar incident at the end of the day where somebody rocked up in a R35 GTR that hadn't even been in the show, apparently. They didn't even have tickets. They were just passing by and decided that they were going to do laps of the local streets, popping and banging. And as a result, that could jeopardize the entire event. And they take over 3 car parks in and around the Wembley Stadium area. It's full of a wide variety of cars. We'll probably talk a little bit about that show in a minute. But, these people who, A, weren't even attending, and B, certainly weren't showing off their car in the show, decided to, pop some bangs and rev and accelerate hard around the 20-mile-an-hour streets of Wembley. Now, karma is a beach, as they say, and the car ended up catching fire because they were popping and banging and revving so much and shooting flames. Which, yes, bad for them, but also bad for the event because then the police had to come and the fire brigade had to come and it was just the whole set of streets got blocked off.
Did it fully burn down to the ground?
I haven't seen the full details, but you could see it was substantially burned. Yes.
What a pillock.
Exactly. I don't like to to be too negative about these things, but I feel like you reap what you sow.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, but I mean, look, even that's now, a bit of an issue. All the local residents are talking about it. They will associate it with the show, which is annoying because everybody left so sensibly.
Yeah.
Everyone just comes out, just cruises along. Maybe they'll just kind of go, just give it a little bit of extra throttle just for a little bit of extra noise, but nothing, obnoxious or anything like that.
No, nobody was being an idiot at all.
Yeah.
I have to say, right, I think I went to that show for the first time last year. It's a fairly new show, part of the Petrol Hedonism brand, which has been run by a lovely chap called Chiro. I've been to his main event, which is at Nebworth. Previous to that, it started at his family's hotel, the Sharnbrook. And he's now got this, I think, very well-known brand that he's built up. He invited me to come to the Wembley thing, which is branded as Petrol Hedonism Underground. And, I think it's one of these things. I look at it, even from the marketing materials, the choice of font, stuff like that. I looked at it and I thought, I don't know, I'm not really sure. This is kind of my sort of show. And also, I'm not just thinking of it from a perspective of, would I enjoy being there? But also, if I'm going to park my car there, I would like it to be a car that the people going to the show are going to appreciate, And I decided to go in the end, not as a special guest or anything like that of Petrol Hedonism, but Chiro very kindly provided me a ticket. And what I did was I went there to support our good friend Ben at Dadcars. So I parked where he was. In this one, he didn't have a stage or anything like that. He's doing his little family fun area, which is great. And I think he provides an amazing service for these events. And I really enjoyed the show. And you know what? I got to say, I do have a bit of nostalgia for the old Max Power cars. There was something that only after about 5 minutes I recognised as a Fiesta. Only really the sort of A-pillar, the windscreen and sort of front window, like there's that little shape was left for you to identify it as a Fiesta Mark 5 or 6, and had 6 exhausts.
Brilliant.
At the back of 6 exhaust tips, Lambo doors, stuff like that.
Sounds like a Bosozoku car.
Yeah. Did you see the Mondeo with the stereo build in it?
No.
There was a Mondeo. Oh, it was barely identifiable as a Mondeo. And it looked like it had been lowered to within, a 1/12 of an inch of its life.
Bags.
I'm not entirely convinced that it was actually a lowered suspension. I think it might have just been the stock suspension, but just carrying an extra, 300 kilos of stereo kit. And you know what? I've obviously, when they were a new thing, I ripped the heck out of them. But now, having been to a few like VW shows you're asking about earlier, where it is just everybody doing the same builds, put it on air ride, get your same wheels. I can't remember what the heck the brand is, but they always do the same. Yeah, Rotiform alloys, right? There you go. Best in show.
Bentley wheels sometimes, things like that.
Yeah, they always look, it's like the Porsche Resto mods, like, what are you going to do? I'm going to do something totally different. Is it going to look a bit like a 2.7 RS with a wide body and Fuchs alloys on it? How did you guess? But Petrol Hedonism, as shows go, I'd call it like medium-sized. Like there's probably, what would you say, Ant, 200-300 cars in the show itself?
I think more than that.
Really?
I think more than that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's about that many in one of the car parks, in the big one, the green one.
Maths never was my strong point. But they took over, 3 car parks, 2 of which were on top of one another, and the other was around the corner. But the breadth of stuff on offer was absolutely amazing. So you had everything from, there were Koenigsegg's and Pagani's on the one end, to a Peterbilt truck was in there, modified stuff, American stuff, classic stuff. You've got Lamborghinis, you've got BMWs, you've got Audis, but you've got some French stuff, you've got Japanese stuff, there's modified Mercs, okay, the overall theme was more sort of towards the modified kind of bit, but that's what I'd expect from something called Underground. But really, the variation in what was on show was genuinely impressive, because I do find sometimes that the larger shows, Jap Show or Jap Fest rather, Silverstone maybe being most guilty of this. Yes, there's a quantity of cars, but when you've got 200 Civic EP3s all parked up alongside one another and they all look the same, or 200 MX5s or whatever, you're like, yeah, cool, great. I've seen one MX5, and actually look at them and you go, I'm sure there are some subtle differences between them, but not that many. You kind of seen them all. So, gotta say, shout out to the Petrol Hedonism lot. Like, some really cool cars there.
I think the diversity of the cars for me at those events is really what is quite striking about it, because there really is something for everybody. And you'll see stuff that you might not have seen for years or ever. And then you'll see things that you've seen before, but not done quite in that way. So there's some really tastefully done modifications that some of the cars were there with. And some of them are just stock, but just kind of like, what do you call it? Concours cars, that have been beautifully prepared. You've literally got an example of just about everything. And if anyone wants to see roughly what it's like, me and my son Damani, we made a vlog of last year's event, not this year because I was on stage all weekend, so I couldn't film anything. But yeah, check that out. We'll leave a link in the description.
You had something quite special happen to the Lamborghini while you were there, though, didn't you?
Oh, yes, indeed. Yeah, Valentino Balboni, or Balboa, as Clarkson likes to call it.
Yeah, I rewatched the old Clarkson, I think it's Unleashed on Cars, recently, and it featured Valentino. And I think that must be one of the first times I certainly was aware of who he was. And I think it's probably the same for a lot of people. I think it was really awkward because I watched it and they got his name wrong for the whole video. They called him Mr. Balboa. And even in the credits, they got his name wrong. So I think someone had just said his name wrong, and then everybody else just carried on, and he was clearly far too polite to correct them.
Yes, Valentino Balboa, the long-lost cousin of Rocky Balboa of Philadelphia. But no, Valentino Balboni happened to be there, and Andrew, who's looking after him that day, said, do you want me to bring him over and you can sign your car? And I was like, yeah. So yeah, Valentino Balboni signed my car. And for those who don't know, he's a very famous test driver that worked at Lamborghini for decades, helped develop, I think, a lot of cars. I don't know if it started around the Diablo time, maybe?
It was definitely there for Diablo, possibly maybe late Countach, like 25th, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Up to Murcielago and Gallardo era, because they had the Gallardo Balbo. I think that might have been his retirement present, was the Balboni edition.
Yeah, that's right. I think so. So yeah, the Gallardo was like one of his last projects. So that's quite cool to have him sign the inside of my bonnet, front lid.
So is that something you're going to get lacquered over PPF or something to keep it?
Yeah, I'll get it protected. I still don't know exactly what it says. I know that the first two words are Valentino Balboni, and the last one, James helped me figure out, was grazie. But there's some words in between that we're not sure what they are.
Put it on screen for the YouTube viewers to try and help us translate the squiggle.
Yeah, maybe you can figure out what that is. It might say ant something. I don't know, which is annoying because I didn't really want it personalised because I want it to be carried with the car. So I don't know what we'll do about that.
We can always get some white spirit and just get rid of everything.
That's true. That's true.
Not a problem.
So speaking of meets, going back to the little one that we did and variation of cars, we had an amazing turnout at the last one. Did the first official Radiator Arms car meet.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was so grateful to everybody for turning up. The weather was not brilliant in the morning, but actually did pick up. And we packed the place out. I limited it to 60 cars. We sold out, and I'm pretty confident nearly all of them turned up. I was absolutely astounded. So a big thank you if you are listening and came there. We also set a new record for Alpines. This is a completely unintentional thing that's been happening. So yeah, over at the White Hart, the first meet we had 4 turn up, which is already unusual. And they didn't know that each other were turning up. And then they decided, right, okay, for the next meet, they started talking on their little Alpine owners WhatsApp group. And they decided, right, we're going to top that. We had 6 turn up. Then this time around, we got 8. 8 Alpines. I mean, we had more than most dealerships that I know.
It was brilliant. And they were all so nice as well.
You've got to be nice to buy an Alpine. See, there's certain kinds of cars where you're like, you've got to be an interesting person, if nothing else, to own an Alpine. Because I don't think anybody buys an Alpine to show off.
No.
You know,
Because you just love driving.
Yeah, Lotus was always the same. A Lotus person, it's a bit like motorcyclists. Like most bikers are really into their bike and they're passionate about it and they love motorcycling. And Lotus people, very much the same. Whereas Ferraris, Lamborghinis, less so McLarens, and definitely with Porsches, you will get people that just bought it because of the badge. They wanted to show off that they got lots of money. So there's not a guarantee that they're going to be an enthusiast.
Well, the Alpine was a car that wasn't really on my radar, but it is now. If I ever get to the point where I can afford one and I can justify it, more importantly, I think I'd look at one of those because, it's one of those things where they actually, are quite nice. And I want to go on about car show etiquette in a second, but they all let me sit in the vehicle. One of the guys let me sit in the vehicle, play with all the buttons and have a good look. And it was really nice. And I feel like it's one of those kind of like experiences that, if you're maybe perhaps younger or something like that, somebody letting you sit in a car, especially one you kind of look at and you think, wow, that's great, can really help shape you into a petrol head. And you said you had an experience to us earlier with a chap who had a Ferrari and there was a young kid, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah. So this was I'm not even going to call it a car show because it was more of like a sort of small display. There's a little place called Port Solent, which is a kind of shopping centre, retail park kind of thing with a marina attached to it down in Portsmouth. And I'd gone down there. I was down there with Ben, with Dad Cars, because he's down that way. And these guys rocked up in a variety of sort of chiefly Ferraris. And there's this one chap there in his 360, and it wasn't the cleanest, tidiest 360 you've ever seen. If you're a purist, you could find at least 2 dozen things wrong with it, but that's all right. To each their own, And this young lad, who must have been 6 or 7, something like that, he walks up to the guy and very, very politely says, "Oh, excuse me, mister, is this your car? Would it be okay if I sat in it?" It's very good of him because you know what? Most young people don't have the confidence to kind of walk up to a stranger and ask that, And the cars themselves can be intimidating and everything else. And the guy just barks at him, "No." And it's like, mate, you're a prick. I don't see what the kid was nice, polite. He was clearly clean and tidy. Like, he's not going to ruin your blooming
Covered
seat.
in jam and things
No,
like
he's
that.
not. He's not sticky. It's just like, come on now. I was very frustrated that I didn't have one of my own cars there to be able to offer him a sit-in, because I'm like, if you're nice and polite enough to ask like that, you can definitely sit in one of my cars. Like, I think it's really, really important that at car shows, no matter what it is that you have, be it a Fiesta or a Ferrari, that if somebody is showing an interest in your car, you should let them have a sit in it, because you see, that is how we create the next generation of petrol heads, because it's small little kindnesses like that, maybe even more so in the land of Ferraris, because of course they can seem like unobtainium to people. And I think it's really important to tell people that, do you know what, these aren't a never ever car. You don't know what life has in store for you, and if you work for a goal, you can achieve it. You want to inspire people to work hard, to do things the right way, or as I like to joke with young lads, say like, you see this car, if you study at school, you work really hard, get good grades, go to a decent job, put the extra hours in, and then one day your Auntie Olga dies, you'll be able to afford one of these. But you also got to talk to them. And also, Ferrari owners do have a pretty poor reputation. I would say, for being old misers that are really, really grumpy. And I want to try and do whatever I can to, correct that. Like when I used to have a BMW, and I'd always, go out of my way to let people out of junctions and be nice. Because, the reputation of BMW owners have been ruined, though I'm happy to say that latterly that was taken over by Audis. Those same people bought those. And now they appear to drive Teslas. Because I think nearly all of the worst driving that I've seen recently has been people behind the wheel of a Tesla. I don't know precisely what it is about it, but I've noticed a lot of Teslas weirdly pulling to the right, but I can't think why.
It's quite interesting that, and It's so funny. I don't know why. For some reason, I decided if I see any Teslas registered on a 25 plate or newer, I'm suddenly not going to let them out of junctions.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah, it's a mystery,
Funny
isn't it?
that.
Yeah.
It's a
Anyone knows,
mystery.
please write in to us at landlord@radiatorarms.com. I might have to put the flameproof suit on for that one. But you know what, sod years.
It's it's going back to that kind of that ethics thing about like car shows and things. Like I've even had people asked to sit in my old Maestro, and it's probably because again it's a rare, interesting thing, but I feel like most car people who are really into their cars and are in that kind of environment want to share it with people. Like I've had a few young kids, asked to sit in it and have a little look and think and say, "Wow, Dad, is this what you drove as your first car?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is exactly what I had. Your mum had a Metro, things like that."
And as soon as we got a job, we got rid of it and moved into something else.
Exactly.
But it is those cars that people like took the mickey out of way back when, that because nobody looked after them. Now you're like, actually, you know what? I had some really good memories with that car. Actually, I tell you what, I want to share one of my highlights of the weekend, because I was there on Petrol Hedonism on Sunday. So we had a whole bunch of different guests come up to the Dad Cars stage. I say we, I was not involved. I went on stage for a little bit, but that was it. But it was Ben and Ant putting the work in. We had all sorts of people come up. I don't know who did you have as guests on the Saturday?
Same group of people. It was Pop Band Colour, Alex Kirsten from Auto Alex, Mike Brewer, and I nabbed Scott Ratterossa as he was passing and dragged him onto the stage at one point too.
That's awesome. So, it's really nice. People like, TV's own Mike Brewer to come and spend some time talking with Ben on the Dad Cars stage. And I was sat at a table. Mike was there, gave him a bottle of water because he hadn't got any. He looked a bit thirsty. And this young lad walks up to us and he goes, "Oh, James, you're one of my favourite YouTubers. Can I have a picture with you?" Completely blanked Mike Brewer. I was so made up. But I think what made my weekend, because it's been a very, very long weekend, a bit of drama in the middle of the weekend, stuff's going on back home, all good stuff, but stressy stuff. And they were getting kids up on the stage and playing games and whatnot, and I had to do a sort of beat the expert type thing, which I suspect may have been a fix.
Nope, it was a random question generator.
Yeah.
Completely random.
To give you an idea, the child got asked what animal is on a Ferrari badge, and I got asked what the part number for my windscreen wiper motor was. It could have gone the other way. I suppose.
Completely random.
But there was a bit of an administrative error with one of the prizes. So one kid got a scale electric, which is lovely. And I then saw Ben. And how he did it with a straight face, I do not know. But give that man a BAFTA. Give that man an Academy Award, because I saw Ben give a 6-year-old child a Next Base dash cam. As a prize.
Well, hang on. Next Base have been sponsoring Ben. They've sent.
No, it's a good thing to have. It's a great thing.
And it was explained. It wasn't, because
it wasn't explained at all.
Because the cars were missing from the scale electric, so we had to then fall back to the Next Base dash cam. But I'm pretty sure it was explained.
There was improvisation, and all I saw, I was trying to colour in a Mother's Day card, right, which I've just remembered I forgot to give to my mum yesterday. And I looked up just to see Ben leaning out and going, "And here you are, it's a Next Base dash cam
for your parents."
I don't know why, it just tickled me. I was like, you can see this kid being like, "What's good is this to me?" You're like, "I want to put it in their pedal car."
To be fair, I think we did explain that we had to do that, and that they were winning the prize for their parents. And his dad did seem very pleased to have won the dash.
Oh yeah, I would be. Yeah, that's blooming handy. That's a good gift. I want Next Base dash cams in all my cars. Next Base, please hit me up.
It's interesting. And you were also saying as well, this is still sticking on some car show ethics, about somebody who was doing something with one of the cars they shouldn't be.
Oh gosh, yeah, I don't get. So
I had to give him support. This was traumatic.
Yeah, it just bothered me. So one of the cars that was on the stand belonged to Multimac, who provide or create these 3 and 4 across child seats.
The one in Ben's car looks phenomenal.
Oh,
by the
it
way.
looks even better in person.
No, it does. It's genuinely amazing.
It looks OE, you know. Anyway, so one of the cars there, this Mini, it's got 3 across in the back, and it's got this like brown leather interior, and it's all like with cream piping. It's all matched and everything, lovely. And this guy kind of took a leaflet off the front, walked around to the back of the car, was looking. I was like, well, that's fine. And then I saw him open the boot. Like, what? It's a convertible Mini, by the way. So he opened the boot, and what's going on here? So I got up and I walked over. I said, excuse me, did you just open the boot? I thought, let me just give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he knocked the handle and it was not properly closed and it fell open or something like that. And he went, yeah. And I went, okay, it's not your car, so you shouldn't do that. So I closed it. And he was like, well, it didn't have a sign saying don't touch it. And I said, well, it didn't have a sign saying to touch it. So you don't need a sign to tell you what to do or to not do. You should never touch any car at a car show if it's not yours. And then he was like, well, you should have locked it then. And I went, or you shouldn't touch it. And then he just couldn't let it go. In the end, after a back and forth of him saying, I suggest you lock it, and me saying, I suggest you don't touch any more cars at car shows, I just said, all right, mate, you have the last word, move along.
That's just such a ridiculous thing to think that you have the right to touch somebody else's car.
Well, the thing that I really regretted afterwards that I forgot, and it wasn't until he walked away, because he was like looking like he was going to square up and pick a fight at that point.
Yeah.
And I just sat down and just tried to show him that I was not interested. Anyway, is that it's actually illegal to do that. Touching someone's vehicle, opening their boot or door or anything, is interference with the motor vehicle.
Oh, that's
And
interesting. I didn't know
it carries up to 3 months in prison.
Well, this is, it's not just that, but it's like a sign of respect at car shows. Now, I don't know if anybody else does this. I do like to kind of, if I can, if somebody's got a bonnet open or something like that, kind of get up close and personal, maybe have a little bit of a look. For instance, we had at the meet we put on, I think it was a Z4M coupe or something like it. It was a Z4 and it had this lovely kind of carbon intake. And I wanted to have a little look at that. So how I do it is, obviously, first of all, you make sure you've got nothing on you that could potentially even give a hint of scratching a vehicle.
Well, like dangling zippers.
Exactly. But I like to put my hands behind my back and just kind of peer in, So if anybody's looking, obviously they can see that, yes, you're having a look, but with the way your hands are there, you have no intention of kind of touching anything on that vehicle. So if like the owner's there, they perhaps look over and go, yeah, they're having a little look, but the body language and everything is saying you're not going to touch it. I don't know. I like to think that's fair. I don't know what you guys, I don't know what the audience at home think about that as well.
You reminded me of a story from many moons ago. So a chap I knew lived in shall we say, one of the slightly scruffier bits of Suffolk.
Hood.
Yeah, in the hood. And he worked security for an airbase. Now, you have to be quite intimidating to be security for military personnel. And this bloke was built like sort of Jack Reacher's iffy cousin. So he was like 6'6" and built like a fridge.
Yeah, the real Jack Reacher, not the Tom Cruise Jack
not
Reacher.
the Tom Cruise one. But the nicest, most lovely chap who wouldn't say boo to a goose unless the goose fronted up to him, right? Which geese do because they're uppity little things.
Oh, tell me about it.
And he was over at his house with a friend one night, and there's a bit of a noise from outside. His mate goes, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, hang on a minute." So he opens his front door, and there's a young lad, probably in his teens, trying to get one of the wheels off of his Audi, and he just stands there going, "You're right there, young man." This chap just looks up at this, like, NFL player of a bloke, and he's like, and just runs into the night, and he got a free tire iron out of it.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, it's just like, honestly, I do like when those things happen.
But what you were saying about how you show that you're not
You're being respectful.
getting anywhere. Yeah, I think it's just about showing respect and an appreciation. It's like when those kids or anyone comes up to a car and asks nicely, "Oh, excuse me, do you mind if I have a sit in the car?" And it's like, well, you've shown enough respect to ask. I'm going to let you have a sit in the car.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously, I think there was one time and it was at an event, and I said, "Do you mind coming back a bit later?" Only because I appreciate that you've asked, but as soon as I open that door and people see you go in, there probably going to be a whole load of other people that will just try and do it without asking.
Yeah.
So can you come back when it's a bit quieter? And I promise you, I'll open the door for you. And they came back a little bit later when it was a bit quieter, and I opened the door and I let them sit in it. And that's the only time.
I always make a point of trying to get kids to sit in the car and whatnot, and so one of the shows I've got coming up this year where you guys are both going to be there, so if people want to come and join us, is Helmingham Hall, which is just north of Ipswich in lovely sunny Suffolk. It's going to be on August the 3rd, I believe. And if you've got a car you'd like to have on the JM and Friends stand, please do drop me a line on talk@jm.com. We've got a few spaces. We've got basically 24 spaces, and we've taken over from the old Piston Heads East Anglia pitch, which fills me with joy because my friend Darren used to run that before taking retirement. And so to be able to have the car on the pitch is lovely. And I always try and bring a different car where I can. But Helmingham is one of those shows where everything is welcome. Whether you've got a Montego or a McLaren, someone will be interested. There's everything from vintage stuff up to supercars, probably more weighted slightly to the older stuff. It's divided in half. So one half is like club stands where we'll be, and you've got Porsche owners make a good showing. The S2000 club is usually parked by us. There'll also be a really good number of Lotus as well. And even the last couple of years, there has been an MG X-Power SV.
Wow.
If you remember those. That's mega rare. There's a chap who's got a white Countach, and when I first met him, it's got a white interior, and he wore a white suit and told me he'd driven it 40,000 miles around Malaysia, which is awesome.
Amazing.
And it's got some of the best food of any car show because it's local food vendors, which I really approve of. But this show, like all the shows I go to, I always encourage young people to sit in the cars and whatnot. And actually, I find, I don't know if you have this as well, Ab, I find 8 times out of 10, I offer them a sit in the car and they all get suddenly very, very shy and they say, no, it's okay. Usually if they're with mum and dad, they'll be like, get in the car, it's a blooming Ferrari, get in there, right? And then we're taking the obligatory photo of the kid in there, put the harnesses on, it's got the little prancing horses on it and, hold the steering wheel and whatnot if they can reach and everything. And, the kid will be like, oh, okay, all right, I'm not so sure about this. And then one of the parents, usually mum, will be like, oh, so what do you do for a living? And I'll be like, YouTuber. And then the minute you say that, kid will be like, right, tell me everything. Like, you got 3 Ferraris? Don't care. You got 100,000 subscribers? Like, I want to know your life story now. Like, it's amazing.
It's the number one job that young people aspire to have when surveyed at school now.
Really?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I tell all of them to get a proper job.
Well, it used to be people wanted to be in TV and films and stuff like that. They wanted to be famous somehow.
Yeah.
But YouTube just it's what the young people they consume.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, they look up to folks like you, James, and think, I want to be successful like them.
Poor mates.
And but the interesting thing is, I always find it odd when people say that, and we'll do a whole episode on this at some point. We do have a video on this, so if you have a young person who is interested in becoming a YouTuber, we'll leave a link in the description. James and I did a little video just talking about some of the issues and things to think about from a parent's point of view in encouraging young people in this space. I've just lost my thread.
It's all right.
I was going to say something about something to do with YouTubings. Anyway, it's a business. It's not a job. It's a business.
Yeah. What's that in your hand, Will?
What, this? Well, this is the cable for my headphones, which I'm playing with, because my headphones apparently are naff, and one channel keeps going, and it's highly irritating. But we were going to talk about, cars and how everything's welcome. I found something the other day that I sent in the group chat, which I don't know if you guys saw, and it's a car that is right up Ant Street, because you've been thinking about classics, haven't you?
I have indeed.
Tell us what you've been driving recently, classic cars.
Well, I drove James's 550,
Yep.
Maranello, Z3 M Coupe, which is officially 25 years old, so counts
That's
as
definitely a classic, yeah.
Yep. I've also driven a Bristol 411, 1972, that had a little bit of a modernisation and update done to it. And I think it was a 56, 57, maybe 55 Bristol 404. And it was that car in particular that I realised that maybe I actually a classic car lover, and I didn't realise it. It's this whole raw driving experience that I like. Maybe it's more to do with it being unfiltered, like you get with a classic car. So James decided to put that to the test and stick me in a few over the years. And I'm starting to think maybe I'll want something of a classical nature.
Well, you also drove my Maestro for the first time, didn't you? And that's an upcoming video as well. And James was saying that when you got out, you had the biggest smile on your face.
I did indeed, yes. It's just a bundle of fun.
It is, isn't it?
It is. It really is. It's just a bundle of fun, and you can't help but smile. And maybe there's a thing about like little red pocket rockets that.
Well, just, you know what, driving stuff like the Maestro, it makes me so happy because, you know, it makes me realise that, you know, look, I love having the nice things, right? Don't get me wrong, having the nice things is a joy and a privilege. But if it all went to hell in a handcart, or more likely I had to be sensible and buy a house or something like that, and I had to sell all the nice stuff, and I could only afford a very, very sensible car, I know that I'll still enjoy it, because what I ultimately love is the people, and I love driving. And having the nice car is not a requirement for either of those things.
I think I also did mention previously that I had a little bit of a thing for MG Metro turbos, because there was one in particular that I used to walk past and I used to dream about one day being able to own one. I remember specifically, it was on this dealership that used to be on Brixton Hill. And as I walked past it on my way home from the bus stop, it'd be like, oh, that car, I've got to have it one day. And it was black and red two-tone with the MG logo down the side, MG turbo. And that's one of those cars. It's like one that got away.
Well, I have got your next car on eBay. I am certain you're going to want this. It's an Austin Metro GTA. Now, I'm going to pass.
Never heard of the GTA.
I believe it is like kind of a sporty, like MG style kitted up thing, but it's not the turbo. It's just the 1275. It's still pretty good for that kind of, you know, size car. Have a look at this.
So is this like the sort of like the MG, like AMG line?
Yes,
Yeah.
something like that.
And gold wheels. That's perfect.
That's pretty awesome.
Oh.
And you know what? Right now, it's got 4 days to go. 2,250 quid. It's currently up for.
It's that same steering wheel as yours, isn't it?
I think it has.
Yeah. It's very cool. But
What's those back? Show me those back seats again. Like,
the lap belts.
oh, they are lap belts. For a second,
no,
I just
no.
thought they'd not been cleared out.
No. It does. No, they're not lap belts. It does have proper seat belts.
Yeah,
in the back.
3-pointers. They're just sort of like not very tidy ones. For a
Yeah.
second, I thought, God, they've not even cleaned the car out. But like, no.
It is a bit dirty on the floor. I mean, look.
Yeah, but I think that's probably genuine period crud.
Period correct crud. I mean, yeah, this one's pretty cool. In many ways, a similar
Hang on a minute.
look.
Hang on a minute. Sorry, I've got to stop you there.
Different colour wheels.
Yeah. That's the sign of an iffy advert, when half the photos it's got one wheels on, the other half the photos. Then you go, so which photos new?
Yes.
Exactly. I've had this forward dealers where you go like, hang on a minute. I actually saw someone advertising a car with 4-year-old photos.
I'll go better than that. I don't know if I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but on eBay for the longest time there was a C or D reg, I think it was, BMW E28 for sale.
Yep.
And long story short, every year they kept bumping the price up and up and up and up because they wanted to get more and more money for it. Turned out it had been up there for about 20 years, and the photos were near 20 years old. They had the date codes in the photos.
Wow.
So, and I reg checked the thing. It had not been on the road for 20 years.
Wow.
So who knows what condition it would actually be in if you went to see it.
There's an E39 M5 like that. It's in the perfect spec for me. Le Mans blue. It's facelift with a heritage leather. Yeah, it's got miles on it, but I don't care about that. In fact, I want that. And it was at a pretty good price a few years back. And I thought, I wonder if there's one like that up for sale. And I looked. No, that one is still up for sale. And part of me wants to go and see it one day to try and work out. Like, you're like, that's been up for sale for 3 or 4 years. And the price seems keen. So there must be something horribly, horribly wrong with it that keeps putting people off. Now,
if you got an E39 M5, that is the one in the collection I'd have to steal off you occasionally. Because I've been an E39 man. I've had my 530i. Always wanted to drive an M5.
they're very nice.
But you were saying you like the look of that, but it's not the right time or not the one for you?
I think if I was going to get a Metro, it would have to be an MG Metro Turbo.
Yeah.
And it's because it was that's
Yeah.
the car that got away.
Yes.
I did take a little sneaky look at those a few weeks back. I can't remember how much they were.
Are there even any for sale?
Yeah, there were a few.
Wow.
Yeah, there was about 3.
Oh, blimey. Because I've looked at them sometimes, because I've actually got a weird thing for them as well. The shape of them, it's like, there's hints of old Golf about it, but it's got its own identity as well, just because it's that kind of era, the boxy hatch.
Hopefully they're the later ones which fix the issue of the fuel spilling out of the fuel tank as you went round roundabouts and getting underneath the wheels and causing you to spin out.
That would be a good one to have in mind as well. Also, Renault 5 GT Turbo.
Oh, yeah. Especially with the new Renault 5 coming out. Like, hello, like, diversion for a minute. Like, Renault, where have you been for the last, like, 15 years? Like, they are doing what I've been saying a manufacturer needs to do. Like, because loads of people I know want to buy a Renault 5 or an Alpine A290, and it's got nothing to do with it being an electric car. Nope. It's because it's just cool.
I want their new Twingo. If they make the new Twingo, because of the original Twingo, I love that car.
Yeah.
It is just so quintessentially French, quirky little kind of transport for the people.
Are you talking like Mark 1?
Yes, Mark 1 Twingo.
Was that left-hand drive only, though?
I think it was left-hand drive. I don't think they sold it in
I
the
went
UK.
to Festival of the Unexceptional for the first time last year. And I'm not really sure I'd seen a Mark 1 Twingo here, or certainly not for some time. There were so many of them. I mean, it was such a bizarre show. There were 2 Matra Marinos there. It was honestly weird. But there's a couple of shows I want to get you guys to. One of which is going to be easier than the other. Because you, Ant, I want to take you to the South OC Cars and Coffee.
Oh, mate, that's been on my list for so long.
Which is outside of Los Angeles. It's Orange County. I went there, and it's just amazing. It's absolutely incredible. It's a very particular type of car scene, and I think if it was my local car scene, I'd get very tired of them very quickly, because we often talk about people here having a bit of the whole, like, you know, considerably richer than Yao kind of syndrome going on. But there, it's next level. Like, it's absolutely next level. So I had never seen one of these in my entire life, right? But at the South OC Cars and Coffee, I saw not 1, not 2, but 3 Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon 6x6s. Yep.
There was one at the Petrol Hedonism Underground last year.
Yeah. One of them was a Brabus.
Wow.
V12 Brabus AMG 6x6, green over tan, on Tom Hartley plates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it looked a bit out of place, a sort of British registration plate in LA. The local Mazda dealer brought a 767.
As you do.
Yeah, just casually. Right?
Is Tom Hartley the guy that has the cars for sale in Harrods?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, does he? Yeah, he parks them on a lake. As you can see, a Tom Hartley advert because they're all parked in a lake.
Yeah, and those photos are often taken by Ben Rain, another YouTuber.
Oh, yeah, I know Ben. Didn't his R8 catch fire?
Yeah, apart from that.
Yeah. That's all. I'm just checking I got the right Ben. He's nice.
Yeah, that wasn't his fault, though.
No, that was definitely not his fault. So, maybe slightly easier to arrange. Will, we got to get you to Rustival.
Yes.
Because Rustival, you know what? We talked earlier about certain car shows attracting a certain type of customer. And this is inevitable because I think certain cars tend to attract a certain type of customer. Now, of course, it's not always a hard and fast rule, but I think, as a general rules go, they're pretty safe bets. Rustival, yes, has a certain type of car that tends to go there, but also a great variety as well. Absolutely fantastic. Never seen so many Citroen BXs in my life. But what I really love about Rustival, and this applies to all the stuff I've been to with Ian, with Steph from My Driver Classic, Matt and Viewers Driving, and of course, the amazing and long-suffering Carly, a.k.a. Miss Huppenut. What I love about all their shows is that their focus really is on the people. Because I see people there who are quite open about the fact that they are maybe not the most sociable. They are maybe not the most outgoing for a variety of different reasons, some physical, some psychological, some just they're busy, But what is, they're all, and I say this with the greatest amount of love, weird people, right? They're our kind of weird people, right? And they're all welcomed with such open arms and warmth, and they are all so welcoming. I went to Ian's meet at Brooklands a few years back, and I was intending to take my 944. Unfortunately, it went a bit hub-nutty. Someone at Porsche decided that a great place to put the battery for that car was in the boot. Should normally be fine. The car developed a problem, though, whereby the fan wouldn't turn off. Okay, not a problem. I'll disconnect the battery. But the battery's in the boot. The electrically operated boot. Yeah. So you can see why this was an issue, right? So anyway, so the only thing I had available was the Scuderia. So I turn up at an event advertising itself as celebrating the average in 175 grand, 510 horsepower, stripped out, lightweight Ferrari track special.
My other car's a Koenigsegg, hence this is the average.
Yeah. And I parked in between a Sierra and a Mark 1 Espace, fully expecting to get some serious grief for what I'd done. And you know what? Not a bit of it. The people were so nice, so kind, so warm and welcoming, and displayed genuine interest in the Ferrari, as I did, because, I can't remember the last time I saw a Mark 1 Scenic out and about. And actually, that's quite an iconic car. That very, very space-agey sort of retro looks about it. And just people were brilliant, just absolutely wonderful.
I think he featured that on his YouTube channel in a video about the event, didn't he? Yeah,
correct, he did.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to meet Ian, Carly, or Steph yet, but I look forward to that because they're just my kind of people.
They are. We'll get you to Rustival. Should be Rustival 3 or 4, I think. Come with me this year. We'll get you in. I think tickets might be on sale now, so we get you a ticket for it. Get you in the nice parking, the Mayfair parking. It's Van der Pla parking, Mayfair parking, and it's at the British Motor Museum. Have you done the British Motor Museum?
That's Bewley, isn't it?
No. That's the National Motor Museum.
Oh, okay.
Very confusing. The British Motor Museum is Gaydon, effectively, so sort of Coventry-ish kind of way.
Is it about like 3 hours away from here?
Yeah, about that. Maybe not that quite far, but depends on how lucky you are with the traffic. But it's brilliant because it's got a great selection of cars in the museum. So you can have a fantastic day walking around the car park and talking to people and everything else. But there's also a really good museum there there's usually a whole heap of really cool JLR products like prototypes, like, last of line, first of line, like random bits. They had the V12 XJ220 is there.
Oh, wow.
There's race cars. There's all sorts of special stuff upstairs in the collection center. Like, again, weird oddities. There's I'm trying to think what it was. Is there a Metro or something, I think it's a Metro V6 prototype.
Oh,
like stuff like that. Like, yeah, there's all sorts of amazing stuff. So that's a really great day out, and we should definitely try and get you there.
okay, I think so. Let's do it. We'll see if the Maestro can make it. That's the thing. I've got to make sure it is road ready first.
Yeah.
For a long trip. The furthest I've ever driven it away is to kind of just outside Cambridgeshire. When I went down to see Josh Gresswell, who did the welding on my sump.
From the disreputable garage.
Yes,
That
yes,
one, yeah.
yes, that one. Great guy, by the way.
So, so anyway, if anybody's got suggestions of car shows that we should make an appearance at, is my one regret, right? My one regret is that doing what I do now, because of course I'm filming people's cars and people are generally only available on the weekends, I don't have the time that I would like to go to shows. So I do Helmingham Hall. I do the Silverstone Festival, which I do with Sporting Bears. So I'll be giving rides in usually one of the Ferraris. But that's also great because I'll be running classic race cars and stuff on tracks. So that's like a track, like not a track day. It's a race event and sort of a car show all rolled into one. So it's really, really good.
My favourite. Much prefer it when there's something else other than just cars sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, they ran Red 5, got a demo there a few years back, and there's always something really, really cool. But yeah, anyone's got any ideas of a show that we should get ourselves to as the Radiator Arms, please do drop us a line, but they'll have to take all sorts because, there's who knows what we're going to turn up in. But yeah, don't forget it's landlord at theradiatorarms.com. Gentlemen, any parting words?
I think my parting words are just, if we're having any little audio glitches today, do bear with us. We are trying out some kind of new thinner little pop shield things, so you can see our faces a little bit better for those on video, but there is the odd little kind of noise here. I'm hoping I can fix it.
It's the eternal compromise, isn't it?
It is.
That's the thing.
It is. So other than that, let us know how it sounds to you in the comments.
Yeah, as for me, quick mention of, I think, so I'm going to Ultrace in Poland for the first time. That was on last year at the same time when we did our Germany-Austria road trip. And on the way back, Damani and I took the GT through the Eurotunnel, and all the cars were coming back from Ultrace, and there were some incredible cars. Then I saw Larry Chen.
Yeah,
Larry
that's
Chen.
the person.
Yes, I saw his video of the event, and the quality of the cars there was just looked phenomenal. So me and Damani decided this year we're going to go rather than do a road trip. So that's going to be my first international car show. We were going to drive there, but I think we've decided to fly now.
Yeah.
Just, bit boring, but hey. But also, later this year, apart from Helmingham Hall, I'm also going to be at the Petrol Hedonism live event on the family stage with Ben of Dad Cars again.
Nice.
I'm going to be emceeing or comparing or whatever it is, warming up the stage so the main star, Ben, can come up and interview the guests. And that is in September at some point, 6th and 7th of September. So I'm going to be there all weekend. Hopefully we can get James to come along as well for at least one of the days.
I'll check my diary.
And so might see you there.
Lovely. And my final word is Wibble. So thanks, everybody. Hit that like button, comment, subscribe if you haven't already by whatever means you listen to us or watch. And regardless of how you do it, we hope to see or speak to you next week. Don't forget, we go live at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning. And through the magic of filming and editing in advance, you don't have to deal with us at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning because, trust us, it'd be just as bad for you as it would for us. And with that, all that remains to be said is a thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.